just starting with New Fortress Energy. You announced results today. You described them on the call as, I think, the best results the company has had to date. You also, interestingly, asked the listeners on the call, I was among them, to pitch their ideas to you about hydrogen and green hydrogen. Why is that such an important issue for a gas business?
Well, because we're all humans on the planet. Right? So the business, we had a great quarter, best quarter we've had as a public company, and more importantly is it's a harbinger of real things to come. Our stuff is being built, turning on, cash flow generating, so that's all good. The goal is to certainly become the dominant IPP power producer in the world that needs power, which is most of the world. But the corollary to that is we want to be a zero emissions company. And we now announced that initiative. We formed our own group inside the company today. And I think that, I've spent a lot of time looking at a lot of different aspects of it. And I really am convinced that hydrogen is going to be the fuel that kind of gets us off fossil fuels. And so we said to people, look, here's what we want to do. We've got the last mile, essentially, with the infrastructure and the power. And if you've got a great idea on how you can produce cheaper hydrogen, call us. So
you want to be zero emissions within 10 years, which is extraordinarily ambitious, at least relative to what other power and energy companies have outlined.
It is definitely an audacious goal, and it's appropriate. I mean, it's an existential crisis, I think, in terms of climate change, and I think nothing gets done by not doing it. So I think it's if you can imagine it, it can happen. And I think that there's enough evidence in terms of what the cost could be prospectively, and now it just needs to get put into practice. So that's the goal.
You and I sat down a week ago and you told me I needed to get smart on hydrogen because it was the big issue and was something we'd be talking about. So I did. And I read an article actually just this morning where it says that BP and Shell are leading the cause in the UK for 100% clean hydrogen, but they think they can do it by 2050. What is well, actually two questions. One, what's the reason for that dislocation between you thinking it could be done in 10 years and them saying it can be done in 30 years? And two, is big energy doing enough?
Well, I think it can happen a lot faster than people think. I really do. I think that 2/3 of all the oil use in the world is used in the transportation businesses, and that's where you're going to see it happen first. Trucks, cars, ships, that kind of thing. I think that 2050 may be a reasonable goal, but nothing really reasonable, nothing gets accomplished by having reasonable expectations. So I think put something out there that is definitely an aggressive position, and hopefully we'll succeed, and I think that we'll bring a lot of people along with us. So,
can you do both in terms of running a company that's sort of economic and increasing profits and deliver on these green targets?
100%. I mean, I believe at the end it's all about profitability, that actually sustainability is profitability, and if you can bring down the cost of hydrogen to $1 a kilogram, which would be $7.50, MMBTU, which would be half the price of diesel, it would be about the price of natural gas, you'll have a massive changeover. That creates all kinds of opportunities, and you'll actually help clean up the planet. So it's both goals.
So do you think the narrative around it is broken? Because it seems that you can be either a crusader or a capitalist, but it's very hard to see people as both.
I think it is. They're entirely consistent with each other. I think that actually, you do well by doing good. And I think that in this case, putting ourselves out there and saying this is something that's important to us is very important to me personally. It's a mission-driven, company that we've got. Is entirely consistent with this, and I think that the narrative around the renewable stuff I personally think is a little misguided. People think of solar and wind power as being a replacement for base level fuel, and that's not really possible in my view, because the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. You take that renewable power though and you use it and convert water into hydrogen, you now have effectively a battery. You can turn it on whenever you want. And so I think what you'll see is a lot more renewable power, but used in a different way than maybe people expect it to be.